Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thanks, Alex.
We'll begin with the first question, which I ask everybody. There's like 8,000 candidates running. Why you above everybody else?
I'm a soldier in the Army National Guard. I've served for over 16 years, have deployed twice to the Middle East, and in Congress for over 6 years have been serving on the House Armed Services and Foreign Affairs committees. These experiences make me uniquely qualified to walk into the Oval Office on day one, prepared to do that most important job that the President has, is to serve as Commander-in-Chief. And in that role, I will end these wasteful regime change wars, work to end this new Cold War and nuclear arms race, take the trillions of dollars we have been spending and would continue to spend on these programs and invest it in our national security and serving the needs of the American people, things like healthcare, education, infrastructure, protecting our environment, needs that have long gone ignored.
So when you say end these interventionist wars, what specifically does that actually look like? Does that mean the Syria war just ends? Does that mean the Afghanistan war just ends? Everybody's pulled back?
That means bringing our troops home from Afghanistan. That means ending the regime change war that's continuing in Syria. That means making sure that we don't go into these regime change wars that this administration is pushing for in countries like Venezuela and Iran. It's recognizing how much these wars have cost us, have cost our troops, our families, our veterans, and how much they've cost the American people with those trillions of dollars coming out of our pockets, coming out of our communities, and making it so that we don't have the resources we need to meet those needs here in these communities.
Of course, the argument against that is that there would then be a power vacuum that would be created in Afghanistan, that would be created in Syria, and some say that's what happened in Iraq, and that led to ISIS. What happens if we all of a sudden leave? Are you worried that Russia or China or Iran or some of these other countries might fill that power vacuum?
Yeah, you know, it's an unfortunate argument that often dismisses the fact that it is our regime change wars in these countries, like Iraq, Libya, Syria, our ongoing war in Afghanistan, that have undermined our national security, have made us less safe by strengthening terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And we've seen this in country after country across the Middle East. These regime change wars have been counter to our national security interests, counter to the interests of the American people, and have actually resulted in increasing the suffering and death and destruction of the people in the countries where we wage these wars. This is why I'm running for president, to end these destructive foreign policies and make sure that we are serving the interests of the American people, serving our national security interests, making sure that people are safe, and investing our limited resources where they are needed right here at home.
Back in 2016, we saw a lot of you with Senator Sanders pushing for things like Medicare for all, pushing for things like tuition-free college, and the Democratic base has really moved in your direction since then. But the question would be, what happens if you actually get to be president? You got to deal with the Republicans in Congress. How do you pass something like Medicare for all through a Republican Senate when you've got a filibuster to deal with? When the president couldn't pass anything close to that, when he had a filibuster-proof majority. But, you know,
I think this really gets to the heart of what is wrong with Washington. What I've been so frustrated by over my 6 years plus that I've been serving there is this hyper-partisanship. So yes, we'll have different ideas on how to deal with healthcare and education, but right now you can't even have a conversation because things are so partisan and so divided, where if it's a Democrat idea, Republicans are generally going to be against it. If it's a Republican idea, Democrats are going to be against it. And that is no way to fulfill our mission of serving the American people. We've got to put the interests of the people ahead of the political party, ahead of any corporate greed interests or any interests of foreign countries. Actually put service above self, putting the interests of the American people first.
So you're running to make history on like a bunch of different fronts, not only from your religion, but being a female, being a Iraq War veteran, would be the first one to be president from that. How does that shape your worldview? How does that, do you think, change your worldview versus people that may just see those as concepts, but having actually lived that experience?
Yeah, there's no question that having these experiences of deploying twice to the Middle East, of seeing firsthand not only the high cost of war, but also the importance of our national security. These things are not only motivating me to run for president, but they are what makes me qualified to be able to walk in on day one and actually do that job of Commander-in-Chief.
And in terms of being the first woman, Hillary Clinton has talked about that there's so much sexism in the country, and that really hurt her a lot. Are you seeing that now? Do you think that women are being hurt by that now?
I think there's no question that still exists, but what I'm seeing more is that there are people of all ages, people from across political parties, who are really looking at the substance, looking at what kind of leadership they want in this country. And the kind of leadership that I brings those soldiers' values of service above self, reinstating those principles of integrity and honor and respect back to the presidency once again. That puts the American people first.
You've got a standing room only crowd here in
great.
Santa Monica. You've got a lot of support online, but in the polls it's sometimes been a struggle. How do you set yourself apart, and how are you actually going to pull this thing off? How are you going to win this thing?
Well, the polls, I think, are jumping all over the place. There's a lot of folks who are running, but as you're seeing here this evening, there's a lot of grassroots support as we continue to grow and build our campaign and to take our message directly to voters. The experience that I bring to this candidacy, to this campaign, is something that stands apart from the other people who are running for president. And the message that my campaign is delivering to the American people is unique. There's no one else who's addressing the cost of war and how these failed regime change policy decisions have negatively impacted our national security and negatively impacted the American people. We cannot begin to address the healthcare needs, the education needs, the infrastructure needs in this country unless we deal with the fact that since 9/11 alone, we've seen anywhere from $6 to $8 trillion going to pay for these wasteful regime change wars. That's what I will end as president.
You think the military-industrial complex can be okay with that?
The American people are okay with that. That's what matters most. And that's why we need a president like myself who will stand up to the influences of the military-industrial complex, to the foreign policy establishment in Washington, and remind them that our president and commander-in-chief serves the people of this country, not them.
And just to wrap things up, we like to have some fun on our show too.
Yeah.
So just to get to know you a little bit better, we know you're a big surfer.
Love the ocean.
I mean, what do you like to do when you're not doing this? Tell us a little bit about Tulsi away from the politics.
Yeah, jumping in the water is the first thing that I like to do anytime I get the chance to go home, even if it's just for a few minutes. Here in California a few weeks ago when I was here, we were able to actually go out for a surf and hold a meeting out in the lineup in San Onofre, where we met with some young leaders and activists who were concerned about the nuclear power plant there and the nuclear waste that's being stored really right there on the beach. So getting to mix up a little of the work along with play is always good.
Maybe sometime you can teach me how to surf.
Love to. Come to Hawaii.
Aloha.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you
Aloha.
very much.
Thank you.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, thank you very much, and
Good
stay
to
safe
see
on
you.
the campaign trail.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.